interested in
They were?
Some interested in the set about intent of being on board, fresh news, fresh vibe.
I hope you join. I'm sorry, I'm still doing stuff.
I'm working around you.
I just want to...
No, like I said, tonight I came more like to listen, but a lot of stuff makes sense, and then some stuff, questions, arguments, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, we need to ask all those questions, but the thing is, based on what? Oh, based on...
At least back there, like, everybody said that, like, might as well wait.
The thing is, this meaning is regulatory. The meaning regulatory means a lot. It's like it has a legal implication that we asked those questions that I wanted to ask. 10 years, 10 years, why wait?
When I live in 20 years, based on plus.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
My thing is, I'm custom. I was mine. I really want to walk out. Really like doing that thing. 2 years. I don't like these two boys. But they want me to hang kids. So yeah, fix my car. I'm like, really? This should have been, my car should have been 2 years. But I've been dragging it for 2 years out of my pocket.
So this can translate to the Spanish. No, but now I understand. So I want to ask the question. Hello. Okay. Buenas noches todo el mundo, good evening. Can you all hear me or is it too loud? Hello? Do we have everybody 7 o'clock? Do we have everybody from HPD you have and all that or no? David Rodriguez, good morning. Hello? Okay, the people who don't speak English, can you raise you up? Sorry. La gente que no habla inglés, ¿puede levantar la mano para que sepamos? Ok, señoras, señores, y ya. ¿Usted habla inglés? Bueno. ¿Qué hacemos? Anyone who can translate, because we have the mic today, can we translate live over the voice? You have no translator?
Yeah. Are you the translator? Yeah. Right? So what I'd like then you can kind of real-time translate for book. And if you get a little too fast, you just put your hand up.
I HPD, la ciudad de Nueva York y HPD came with their own translator in Spanish. So I'm not going to have to do the work. I'm glad, thank you HPD. Los que no, HPD vino con su traductor de español para nosotros. Entonces, los que no hablan inglés, por favor se siente de un lado allá por atrás y el traductor en español va a traducir lo que dice HPD en directo, en vivo, al mismo tiempo que le están diciendo en inglés. Y le debo los dos. Los tengo, que no se me olviden. Ok, todo lo que necesita el traductor en español. ¿Cómo te llamas? Carlos. Llévatelos a ellos y explícale cómo va a funcionar la cosa. Señora, tiene que ir con Carlos. Si no, no va a saber lo que va a pasar.
Hey, I have an attendance sheet. Can everyone please sign your name? That's it. Yeah, that's what we do.
It's okay, thank you. We cleaned it up ourselves. We left the box down here. So me and the group guys, we cleaned it up. Yes,
Los que no hablan inglés, Carlos está allá, Carlos está ahí para traducir en vivo todo lo que está pasando. I think it's 7 o'clock, we're going to start the meeting, so I'm going to hand out the meeting to HPD. So this becomes HPD's meeting, it is not our meeting. We're here to listen to what they have to say, and please ask all the questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, my name is Nelson Chan. I'm the director for the third-party transfer program over at HPD. So today we have a very important meeting here for all of us here, and I'm glad that we have such a great turnout. So we have agendas and sign-in sheets. So for those who don't have an agenda yet, raise your hands. Who wants a copy of the agenda? And we are circulating a sign-in sheet, so if folks can sign in before they leave this meeting. So if folks need a translator in Spanish, we've provided a translator. Please raise your hand. Okay. So if you need a translator, that's wonderful.
Don't worry, don't worry.
We also have flyers about the third-party transfer tenant petition It's basically what the program that you guys signed up for to convert this project, this building, into a co-op. So there's some information there if you would like. This was actually handed out many years ago, but if you need a refresher, please raise your hand and we'll pass that out to you.
Same thing? No, one is Spanish, one is English.
It's both in Spanish and English. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead. Right here. So that package is Spanish.
So we have a lot to cover today. All right, so if we can just get started. Again, we have a lot to cover, right? So if everyone can hold questions to the very end, if you can write down the questions, I'm sure that a lot of you folks have many questions that you want to ask. We will stay around to answer your questions, okay? So let us get through this presentation, write your questions down, and at the end, when we open it up to questions, we can answer it as a group, or you can come up to us at the end, okay? So,
Nelson, I originally thought that if you were even in a semicircle, because part of the breakdown is that the Spanish-speaking residents are mostly seated, the people who may not speak English, who want it interpreted, are sitting further away from the forum. So I don't know if you guys want us to open up here and y'all come in here more.
so folks who,
Open up and let you.
so if you guys want to come forward, all right, and Spanish speakers stay onto the side, because we're not going to stop, you know, we're going to keep the flow going where.
Move forward so everybody. You're in the front and you're in the back, be here.
But it's a micro. I'm using a microphone, so wherever the speaker is. No, it's the speaker. Where's the speaker? It's on the side. Okay. All right.
Yes. Well, they have that. Yeah, that's the translation. But we have someone. We have someone to verify that the translation is correct.
So again, my name is Nelson Chan. I'm gonna have folks up here introduce themselves. Okay.
My name is Dave Rodriguez. I'm the project manager for this building. Hey, my name is Tom Don. I'm the project manager for this building.
Anya Irons, General Counsel at UHAB.
Milagros Serena Rochette, also known as Millie from UHAB.
Brent Sharman from UHAB.
And Teresa with MDJ.
Escobar from MDG.
MDG.
Danny Wheeler from CPC.
Jeffrey Thomas, project manager from HPD.
So we have UHAB, you know UHAB, who's the developer / owner of the building. We have the bank, CPC, and we have MDG, who are the contractors and / architects who can talk about the scope for it today.
Yeah, so we have a couple of points we're going to go over. Your agenda lists about 5 points. We've already introduced ourselves, so we're going to move on to the second point, which is the scope of work. We're going to let UG talk about the scope of work since you are the general contractor and architect. So I hand it off to Vince Russo. Okay. I'm going to run through the scope. This is Vince from MDG, and he will chime in if I make a mistake or if it needs clarification. The basic scope of work, which we've discussed many times, is basic systems. The boiler will be replaced, and it's long overdue. The brickwork, which is related to what's called Local Law 11, has to be done by law. So all of the masonry is going to be worked on and put in proper order. The electrical system is one of the big items. We've determined that the electrical wiring in the apartments is probably outlived its useful life and is getting to the point where it could be a hazard going forward, and that has to be replaced. So one of the big items is that those lines are in the walls, so the walls have to be broken into in order to fix those electrical lines and replace them, put in all new outlets, all new light fixtures, and make this building really safe from any problems with electricity. Windows will be replaced. Many of the doors, not all, but many of the doors will be replaced, those are needed. Bathrooms will be completely redone. Kitchens will be completely redone. All the floors in the apartments are going to be refinished and made to look shiny and beautiful. And I think those are the main items of this. Oh, and excuse me, the plumbing, which is the branch plumbing. Not the risers, because we've deemed that the hot and cold risers that bring the water to the apartments were replaced back in the 90s, and they're made out of copper. They're good, and they do not need replacing. But the branch plumbing, which runs from the branches into, to the sinks and the toilet and the bathtub and the shower, those are going to be replaced. That's the basic scope of work. There are a couple of issues that we have discussed here. One of them is, of course, the decorative molding, which we've heard the tenants, and a lot of people would like to keep the decorative molding that they have, the baseboards, the picture molding, the framing around the windows, the decorative wood around the windows. And we've struggled with that. We have this mock-up apartment, which most of you have come to see, to show that it would be replaced. The existing moldings would have to come down, mostly because the walls have to be broken into. And the idea is to laminate those walls, put sheetrock over them. A couple of reasons for doing this, the lamination. One is that there's a lead issue. You want to make this building lead safe. We assume that in most of these walls, underneath all the layers of paint, there's old layers of lead paint. We want to alleviate that by laminating and putting sheetrock on all of the walls, and trying to keep the general character of the apartments, and recognizing that people have lived here for decades, trying to make the apartment look fairly similar to what it's been. Now, that has become an issue because it is expensive, and some of the work that people saw in the mock-up apartment may not actually end up being part of the scope. The scope is still under review by HPD, and that is, I have to share that with you, that's an item which we are not yet settled on, But chances are, given the limitations of the budget, not all of that decorative molding will be possible to do. We're going to wait for questions. Please hold your questions to the Q&A.
Can you write your questions down if you have some?
Well, you said sink, you mean the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink? Is that right?
Yes, the bathtubs, the kitchen sinks, and the bathroom sinks, yes, will all be replaced. And also, I forgot new refrigerators and new stoves. Now, one of the things about the stoves is, and this is something that came up fairly recently, and I'll try to summarize it. There seems to be a ruling from the Department of Buildings. You want to describe this?
Basically, you can't turn, the building department won't allow the gas to be turned on in an apartment unless the entire building is tested. So what that would mean is, we would, by doing the work in phases, the first phase wouldn't have gas service for up to 18 months if we would put back gas stoves. So the conversation has been that instead of gas, we're going to put electric stoves in. This would allow you to, once you return to the apartment, that you'd have a functional kitchen, a fully functional kitchen.
So you did say that they would replace by electric stoves. It's going to be electric stoves instead of gas. Kind of nice, it'll make the building safer. I need to go over real quickly the timing of all of this. Now we don't want to obviously replicate the years that it took to do your neighbors in 644. For that reason, we've ordered a contractor, MDG, that has a track record of doing rehabs in a very small amount of time. We are projecting that there's going to be 6 phases of construction. For instance, one of the phases will be the F and the C line together. Now, why the F and the C line? Because they have back-to-back plumbing. Their kitchens and bathrooms meet at the same wall, and so they need to do those. So we will empty, meaning we will relocate everybody in the F and the C line. And once that all those apartments are cleared, MDG will go in and will renovate that apartment, all those apartments, and it's going to take them about 3 weeks, 3 months, about 3 months. We're hoping to speed that up a little and make it 2 months. And in between time, we have to relocate everybody from each phase as we go along. So, just real briefly, the first phase, we start to move people into their temporary relocation apartments immediately, and we expect to take no more than 2 or 3 weeks to do that. MDG comes in, they do the rehab in that phase, in the F and the C line. I'm using that as an example. Before they finish the F and the C line, we are going to project when it's going to be finished, and we will notify the relocated tenants, get ready to move back. The tenants will come and they will look at their renovated apartments, and they will move back. As they're moving back, we will be moving the next phase of relocating. So we're going to move this fast. And so on through 6 phases. We're projecting that this construction is going to be finished in 18 months once we get started. That's our goal, 18 months. Nobody, if everybody cooperates, nobody's going to be relocated out of their apartment for more than 2.5 to 3 months, if everybody cooperates. This is going to move fast. Now, I just want to make one comment about timing. Okay. We need the TRAs, we've said this. We need everybody to agree that they're willing and able to move to the apartment that's been assigned to them. We have collected so far, 57 people have done this. We have some stragglers, we're working with them. We also need people to get to agree with the scope of work. And HPD has said that they need to know that the residents agree and okay with the scope of work. Our focus will be on finishing the renovation as quickly as possible. Once it's done, the next big step, and this is a big picture timeline for everybody, the next big step is that HPD restructures the rents. And they're going to talk about this in a few moments. After the rents are restructured, and we help people with their Section 8 applications, we're going to move into what we call the co-op conversion stage. The big part of that is that we will prepare what's called an offering plan. That offering plan has to be approved by HPD and the Attorney General's office. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick. It gives everybody as much information as you should need to make a decision as to whether you want to become a shareholder in the new HDFC cooperative. The purchase price will be $2,500 for the existing residents. So that's it. You don't make the decision on becoming a cooperative until the end of this process. And by the way, there was a lot of talk in the meeting just a moment ago about needing a lawyer. Yes, you will definitely need to have a lawyer when we get to the conversion process. You will want to have a lawyer to review the offering plan, which we send to all of you. So we definitely agree with what was said in that meeting a few moments ago. You do need a lawyer. The timing of getting a lawyer, though, is really up to you. But I want to say we definitely urge you to have a lawyer once we get to the conversion process. Let me stop for a moment.
And just to reiterate, we are not a co-op yet. You guys are not a co-op yet. We still have a lot of milestones and steps to get there, okay? I want you guys to be a co-op. Your neighbor building is down that path and far into that already, so they will convert as a co-op. I want this building to convert as a co-op. So we need, again, reiterate the cooperation. So I just heard 644 in October, they will own their units, okay? They've gotten together, we all have gone through many years of waiting around. You know, this is one of our top priority projects here, so I just want to reiterate that urgency from us to you guys as well, okay?
Okay, now the next part of the meeting is mostly HPD, but I just want to preface it by saying that we have obviously been looking at ways to restructure the rent. We intend to restructure the rents the same way that we did next door in 644, which is all the rents are equalized based on the size of the apartment by zoning room count. Now, zoning rooms essentially means that if there's a room, it's counted as a room. Whether you use it as a bedroom or a dining room or a living room, it's still a room, and we count that as a zoning room. What we do is we have a thing called it's a formula. We have the core part of the apartment, and that has a higher rated formula in terms of coming to what the amount of the rent will be. The kitchen and the bathroom are essentially the highest maintenance spaces in every apartment. That's where the plumbing is. That's where the fixtures are. And for the kitchen, that's where the appliances are. So we assign a higher dollar amount to the core part of the apartment, which everybody has. Everybody has a bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room. So that's the core. And then, at a lower rate of amount, we add on bedrooms, dining rooms, and any other bathrooms. There are some apartments here that have 2 bathrooms. Some of them are full bathrooms, and some of them are just half bathrooms. We take all that into account when we are coming up with the formula as to what the restructured rent should be in those apartments. I'm going to hand this over to HPD.
So before we get into the restructured rents, we're going to have CPC talk about the project financing and why we need to restructure the rents to pay off apartments.
So hello, I'm Dan Wheeler, I'm from CPC. So as I said before, CPC is a non-for-profit mortgage company. Go figure, right? But what we do is we specialize in affordable housing. And since 1974, we've been the leading lender in New York City for projects like this with HPD.
Yeah.
Oh, slow, sure.
Of course.
Is this better? Can I talk without this? Can everybody hear me?
No, David, it's not your fault. What's your name?
Okay, I'm from New York. I speak fast. Now slow down. Okay, ready? Okay.
I'm listening and
I'm a little louder than the mic, all right? So, CPC is a private mortgage company, not-for-profit.
Take the mic.
Okay. Is this better? Slower? Yes. Okay. That's great. It's a not-for-profit. We do lending. So we team up with the city, where the city puts subsidy into the project, and CPC is the private bank that puts private money into the project. So the difference there is that CPC charges a higher interest rate, and combined with the city's lower interest rate for their subsidy, it makes it a very nice rate for the project, very low rate, all right? Probably about 3.5% combined. So it's very cheap money. So what CPC does, similar to what you're doing as tenants right now, is before we lend money, we look at the scope of work also. We appraise the building. We check out the general contractor. We make sure that they're legit. They've done projects in the past. They've been successful in projects in the past. Personally, I have worked with the general contractor, and you have on previous deals. Probably I've done about 10 similar projects to this, similar size, about 100 units. Is a little bit bigger. And they have become successful co-ops. They were in Brooklyn, we've done some in the Bronx, and some in Upper Manhattan. So we've been around for that. So the way that it's structured right now is a combination of monies. So CPC will put about $17 million into the project during construction to help pay for interest, architect fees, hard costs. Hard cost is the actual construction cost. The city is prepared, we're in for $10 million. The city's in for 16.4. So the city's putting higher amounts of money in so that you have a lower interest rate on that money. Also, at the end of the day, as they've spoken, if you get through the process and you all pass the milestones and become a cooperative, there'll be sales from each of you, $2,500 a unit, which will help pay down the construction loan. There's also vacant units in the building, which will be sold to outsiders. That's just people that haven't lived here for years. And that money will also be used to pay down the construction loan. So it will bring your loan down during permanent financing. And that permanent loan is what needs to be serviced or paid for with your rents or your maintenance. So HPD will talk more about your maintenance and your rents, because we structure the loan based on what the projections are for those rents after we complete the construction and you come back into a newly furnished unit. Your rent will go up, or your maintenance, whichever way we go. And HPD will talk more on that, how that's structured. So I will be around afterwards if anybody has questions about the private financing.
The last part you said, Mr. Taylor, you said the $10 million will go to interest, architect fees, construction loan. Then you said, when the project is finished, the rents will be restructured according to, it sounded like you said according to the loan? Like, what did you say?
The loan. So if you borrow $10 million,
Yes.
you have to pay back $10 million. So the way that it's structured, it's a 30-year loan at the end, and your rents have to be sufficient as a group to pay that loan each month. Right, so
is that what will be structured like is that how sometimes people get hung out to dry because all of a sudden the structure is so high?
HPD will talk about the restructuring. So the restructuring, if you pay a small amount of money now, you're in residence. You're not going to get a bill for $3,000. The rents will be determined before we close on the construction loan. So there will be no surprise. You will know what your rent or your maintenance will be at the end of the day. So HPD will talk more about that, okay? I think they want to wait for questions to the end, okay?
Yeah. Okay, so before we dive into the actual rents, we're going to talk about why they have to be restructured. So they have to be restructured to maintain the building, repay long-term debt, generate funds to operate the building, pay utility costs, and superintendent salaries. Sorry about that. I'll repeat that again. So we have to restructure rents / maintenance to maintain the building, repay long-term debt, generate funds to operate the building, pay utility costs, and superintendent salaries.
Okay, once more, and you know what? I understand you want questions at the end, but y'all got the money part at the very end, and it's not easy for anybody.
Understandable.
We don't work in this like y'all work in it.
Right. Can we wait to the end, please?
That's the last time I will say it.
Thank you.
Say what you said one more time. I've been listening.
Okay. So we are restructuring maintenance / rents to maintain the building, repay long-term debt, generate funds to operate the building, pay utility costs, and superintendent salaries. So you have to operate the building. Essentially, you have to, and pay the debt. So, key information, please jot this down. I'll repeat it again if you need me to. The rents are not going to be restructured during construction. You're only going to get the stabilized rent increases that you get a year. So it's rent stabilized increases. It depends every year. It can be 1%, 2% a year. But you'll have the rent stabilized increase during the construction process. Okay? You will continue to pay the same amount of rent you are currently paying until rehabilitation is complete. So 2 years down the line when construction is complete, your rent will be restructured. Prior to construction completion, however, HPD is going to issue a letter with a copy of the landlord statement showing that what work was completed in their apartment. So whatever work was completed in your respective apartment, we're going to send you a letter with a copy of the landlord statement. If you have any complaints or issues with the work conducted, you have an opportunity to speak to HPD prior to the implementation of the rent / maintenance restructuring. The issues will be verified by HPD construction staff, and once resolved, we'll have the new rent / maintenance implemented. So there's a whole process to this. Okay? If anybody is rent burdened after the restructuring, Section 8 subsidy will be provided to those tenants who cannot afford the rent. We'll only be able to provide it if it's available, especially at the federal level. It changes every single year, so next year Trump might take Section 8 away, we don't know. But it has to be federally available for us to provide Section 8 to whoever needs it in this building. Questions for last, please. I'm sorry. Okay, so Brent spoke to you guys about the core rooms and non-core rooms, right? So let's dive into what the maintenance are going to be if you become a co-op. So for the core room, right, 2.5 zoning rooms, your proposed maintenance, jot this down please, is $921. 2.5 zoning rooms. We can talk more about that later, but let's go through the chart, okay? 2.5 zoning rooms, proposed maintenance, $921. Okay?
That's rent or just maintenance?
Maintenance. Same thing. Yeah. Once it converts into a co-op, your maintenance will be $921 if you have 2.5 zoning rooms. It has to be equalized for you to become a co-op, okay? Rents, in the case of a rental fallback, we'll discuss later. But for now, I'm discussing the co-op scenario.
Okay, the zonings you said were kitchen and a bathroom.
Kitchen, alright, so I'm gonna talk about the core rooms, I'm gonna repeat again, are kitchen, living room, bathroom. That equals 2.5 core rooms. Any additional room will be considered a non-core room. So that's additional living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, alcoves, and additional bathrooms. Those are non-core rooms. Core rooms are going to be charged $368.50. For the core rooms, yes. Can we please wait?
I'm alright with that. There's like 6 of you guys there.
2.5 zoning room is a studio. It's a studio. It's a studio. Please, one at a time. Don't save questions to last. Please, let's get through this. Please. Okay? Let me finish and we'll have questions for last. Okay, we got a lot. I know you're confused, we're going to give you more information later, but please wait. Alright, apartment size, 3 zoning rooms. That's $1,006. That's your maintenance. 3.5 zoning rooms, $1,091. 4 zoning rooms, $1,176. $1,176 will be the maintenance for a 4 zoning room apartment. 4.5 zoning rooms will have a maintenance of $1,261. An apartment with 4.75 zoning rooms will have maintenance of $1,303. 5.5 zoning rooms will be $1,431. 6 zoning rooms will be $1,515. 6.5 will be $1,600. 7.25 zoning rooms will be $1,728. Lastly, 8.5 zoning rooms will be $1,940. Repeat the whole thing. Okay.
We'll go through it afterwards. Like I can do this one-on-one.
Okay, zoning rooms again. I think Brent might have a better idea on how to explain zoning rooms to you guys since he's already spoken to you about this.
Sure. Just quickly, just so you know, the basic 1-bedroom is the 3.5 zoning rooms. There's 42 of those kinds of apartments in the building. It's a basic 1-bedroom. So once again, that's 1,091. And your basic 2-bedroom apartment, which is your 4.5 zoning rooms, 1,261. Your basic 3-bedroom apartment, which is your 5.5 zoning rooms, 1,431. Now, do you want me to go over again the concept of core and non-core? All right, real quick. So the core is based on the concept that your kitchen and your bathroom is more maintenance because you have your plumbing there, you have your appliances in the kitchen, and you have your fixtures, your bathtub, your shower, your kitchen sink. So, and then the living room. But it requires more care. And so we assign a higher dollar value to figuring out what the restructured rents and or maintenance fees should be. I'm using rents and maintenance fees interchangeably because they are. The non-core rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, alcoves, there are some apartments with big alcoves, there are some apartments with no alcoves. But that's the non-core spaces. We assign that a different dollar amount, a lower dollar amount. And when we combine the two, is how we come up with the numbers that we have just explained to you. Okay? Just one quick thing, if I could make a comment about rents and maintenance fees. Your rents will be restructured while you are a rent-stabilized building. If it turns out after that you do not become a co-op, because not enough people respond to the offering plan, then the restructured rent will be your restructured rent and you will stay under rent stabilization. Only after that offering plan is given to you and discussed in several meetings, and in which you have a lawyer go over it, and if you do decide to become a cooperative, then those same rents will become your maintenance fees. Okay, so that is basically, this is rent restructuring, it is rents. If you become a co-op, then it's maintenance fees.
Do you want to mention what is studio zoning and what's Airbnb zoning? I think that's easier for them to understand.
I'm just going to interject here because none of this you have to remember. When the time comes for co-op conversion, you're going to get a sheet that has your exact apartment number and your name and exactly the size and exactly the maintenance fee / rents, okay? What you see on, what we can do prior to the offering plan is we can put together a sheet with your apartment number and with the numbers, the zoning rooms that we've assigned for your apartment number, okay? So we can do that in advance, so you don't have to remember this now. The concept, though, that everybody has a kitchen, a living room, and a bathroom is what we're talking about. So there's one core that everybody has, and a studio has 2.5 zoning rooms, which is the core, okay? After that, you just add rooms. But you'll get a breakdown of exactly your apartment and how many zoning rooms we have for your apartment after this meeting. I think everybody probably is wondering that. There's no point in guessing, okay?
Is that after this meeting right now?
Yeah, we can put that together for after this meeting. That's not a problem. I have to do it anyway to put it in your offering plan. I'll just do ahead of time, okay? Not today.
Ideally before we start doing all this work.
Yes.
Either way, you can.
So, if you don't become a co-op, you're going to stay as a rental, an affordable rental building. You have to meet all the tenant petition program milestones and responsibilities. We have the tenant petition program guidelines in Spanish and English, which were already handed around. If you don't have them, please walk up after the meeting and take one from the table. Again, it's both in Spanish and English. I'm going to repeat this again. If you do not become a co-op, you will stay as an affordable rental building. But your rent will still be restructured at the end of the day. They're just not going to be based on zoning rooms. They're going to be based on 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and so forth. Okay? We don't have to equalize rents for a rental building. For a co-op, your maintenance has to be equalized. Everyone has to pay the same share.
So, David's talking about the rental fallback, right? That's when we, HPD, and the sponsor determines that you guys have not come together and meet certain milestones. Now, some of these milestones listed on the sheet of paper is that 80% of you will need to buy into your apartments, okay? Agree to purchase in order for this to become a successful co-op. Another milestone is we will have a series of training throughout the construction. I know maybe some of you folks attended some trainings earlier on. Am I right? Or yeah. Okay. So this series of training, at least 80% of the tenancy here will need to attend those trainings too. And we take attendance. Who attends? Who's missing classes, okay? We keep all of that as we start assessing whether this building should become a co-op or not. And finally, last thing is, 80% must be current with the rents, okay? Now, this is very important because you want each other to pay rent. Because if this person doesn't pay rent, the rest of you guys, when you guys become a co-op, should you become a co-op, will have to carry that person's deficits, okay? So that is very, very important. So this is where you need to lean on each other during this time to encourage each other to attend training, to remind each other to go to training, and remind each other to be on top of their rents, okay? You don't want to start off as a co-op and have half the building in arrears, because that's day one, it won't be successful, okay?
But if you're in arrears and you're raising it up, are you going to cash it out?
Just to piggyback off what Nelson was saying, you should all be very proud. This is a very good rent-paying building. Most of the residents in this building pay their rent on time every month. There are very few people in arrears at any one time. There's always some, and you know, sometimes we have to take people to housing court. But there's 99 occupied apartments. The vast majority of the residents here pay their rent. So we're thankful for that because we're responsible for operating this building. You should be thankful for that because you want to be a cooperative. You can rest assured that your neighbors are responsible.
You know what some of the disconnect is, Nelson, sincerely to you. You see that when we said cooperatives at our earlier meeting, it is the same as trying to generate enough unity so that even later it won't be that it's not your business if I paid my rent. It will be, if you don't pay it, we can't go through with the conversion. So we should all be encouraging each other.
Absolutely.
And both sides.
Absolutely.
Without emphasizing you're not a co-op yet, because if we don't get it together, we're going to sing.
Sure.
Whatever you
and actually, it's my obligation to make that point clear too. I have all your backs here. This is one of our top priorities, this project here. And to get to this point right now, I know it's a long time waiting, and all you guys, I sincerely believe that all of us should be excited and anxious for all of this to happen. I know everyone still have a lot of questions, so that's actually the end of our agenda, and we would like to open the floor up to questions, unless anyone here has anything else to
Can I take the first question? Can I? Excuse me, would you allow me to take the first question? No? Yes? Okay, thank you. Well, the reason I wanted to take the first question is because I wanted everybody to see and hear me and also back me up if I'm wrong in what I'm going to tell HPD, you have, MPG and anyone else, because I want them to see me asking them this question because I have asked them those questions. I send them thousands of emails.
As long as we're not going to talk about 10 years ago.
No, we're not talking about 10 years ago. We're going to talk about 2 days ago. Because you agree with me that what makes the loan amount is the scope of work. We all agree to that? We all agree to that, right? The scope of work, the loan amount and the construction amount is the scope of work. And the scope of work is the details that matter. Not the big thing. It's the little details that matter. The devil is in the detail. Unfortunately, HPD, or you have sent me or sent the board the scope of work 3 days ago. Not 10 years ago, 3 days or a week ago now. So we did not have enough time to even study the scope of work. Because, for example, there is a shed that is outside leaking into the apartment 1K, and it's still in the design. And we never sat down and looked at the plan to make sure that shed was moved somewhere else. We were never given the opportunity to take that shed out of the scope of work and put it somewhere else. No, I'm not passionate. I want you to listen. Okay, done.
What's the question?
Hold on. Well, the question is, let's start with the first one. Will all the promise you have made, will be them in writing? That means the first question you need is, are the thing about you coming back will be in writing?
I didn't understand the question.
Well, every promise that you have made will be in writing.
Okay, let me answer that one.
I'll give you the
One at a time.
One at a time.
When I produce the offering plan, which is something that gets reviewed by the Attorney General's office as well as HPD, the whole point of an offering plan is to disclose to everyone all of the risks and all of the benefits involved in purchasing a share to this co-op. In that offering plan, you also get a full copy of the scope. You get everything disclosed to you, and it gets reviewed in detail. Now, there have been meetings about the scope in this building with the contractor. There have been discussions about the scope, so that's not entirely true. You did recently get another copy of the scope, that is true.
After I got a lawyer.
If there are questions about the scope, we're more than happy to continue talking about them. But to answer your question, all of the promises involved in this deal will be contained in an offering plan, which you all will have an attorney with you to review.
Before the construction starts?
No, not before the construction.
So you mean we get the construction and then we get the promises in writing? Can we get the promises in writing before the construction?
I don't know what promises you're talking about, so that's not really.
Excuse me, can I say something?
That's one question, we can come back.
Shouldn't we be? Look, it's like this. Look, see how you got a team of people here. And the thing is, the tenants is not really organized to the fact of y'all, because y'all already set up this meeting, so y'all was prior talking to this. So we need somebody to sit down and on our behalf to talk on all of us, because everybody got their own opinions, and if it's 1,000 people here, all of them gonna want to say something at the same time. It's gonna be confusion. Y'all already got your situation together at the office, so therefore we need a lawyer here to represent us, somebody to stand for us, and a few people that know all of the legal stuff, because we're dealing with a lot of money, and none of us really had 29 million. So we need somebody to help us, not y'all, because y'all on the other side. We need somebody on our side. We get our people, and then we can sign all these papers. But before that, we shouldn't sign it and then get a lawyer on the back end, because on the back end, we're going to be paying more than getting one in the front. So we need to take care of this right now and then eliminate everything in the meeting. To me, it seems like it's going to be wasted, because everybody's going to talk and not going to get anything that they want done. The project or whatever we're going to do is still going to go forward. But like I said, I don't have nobody here right now.
Something occurred to me. Something occurred to me the other day, and the purpose of this meeting is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, HPD, but they have certain things that they have to do at certain times, and one of those things is they have to have a meeting at least 30 days before closing of a loan. Okay, so the whole mandatory thing was mandatory on HPD. They have to have this meeting. They have to go through these things with you. This is contrary to what some of the emails said. I hope you're listening. This is not the last meeting or the last conversation before construction begins. This is just a point in the process that HPD has to do. I just want to make that clear.
There's going to be somebody there to guide you through if you're not well aware.
You're taking out a loan before anybody can agree to anything.
That's fine. Don't study it so close to me.
Can I
slow?
to live in their apartment.
Can I ask a question?
Talking about $30 million, and you can buy into your apartment. Like, that doesn't make no sense to anybody. This is convenient for you. This is what
By the time you do the snow, you do the snow, you have to try to
Some of us have been in this process since the very beginning. The only reason we are even talking about this is because forms or papers went around 10 years ago asking tenants, do you want to go co-op? Do you want to own your own building? We went from apartment to apartment. We collected signatures. There were enough signatures to get the ball rolling. That is why we're here today. So it's not like they just came in and said, do you want to be a third-party transfer?
Tracy.
We had a 7A administrator, nothing was going on here, and then we had no lawyer. And everybody that has been here for more than 20 years knows what it was like living here when there was no management, there was no one accountable, which is probably why people, because I knocked on doors too, people signed the form to say, yes, we want to take control of the building and we want to determine our own destinies. Now, we did say that 10 years ago, and there have been so many problems and starts and goes that entire time. I give you that, but I'm going to say it again. If we don't want to do it, we don't have to. My question as a tenant is, based on what I read in the New York Times 2 days ago about what happens to people in rent-stabilized apartments, what is the alternative? I am not saying that I agree with that completely, but that's what this is about. But no, they did not.
Tracy, no, wait. You like that statement, you like her statement because it goes with you. I have something to say. 10 years ago, it is true, but 10 years ago, there is a change. There is something. We are not educated anymore. I agree with you, Tracy, but we have fought every landlord for the last 100 years in this building. And I posted it, but 75 years ago, the landlord came and they went bankrupt. In 1970, they came, they went bankrupt. We know how to fight, and we know how to keep our apartments rent controlled, rent stabilized. And the decision we need to make together is we going rent stabilized to rent.
Do you want this as a rental?
I want the
Do you want it as a rental, or do you want it as a co-op?
Okay.
You said you want it as a rental.
No, I didn't say that. You didn't understand me. I want more time so we can educate ourselves. We need more time. 3 months.
I would just like, I think basically you would like a response from you have about the things that we just said. Very briefly, this is a window of opportunity for the residents of 640. I believe it may be the only window of opportunity for 640 to be able to become a cooperative. If we are not able to do the renovation, then Shuhab and Uhab will have to bow out as the owner. We will not continue to own this building if we cannot do the renovation. We will have to basically confer with HPD about turning this building over to another landlord. And you could ask HPD about what that means. But in terms of the scope of work, now, the scope of work we have talked about at several meetings here for the past 6 months. And we sent the scope of work to the board of the Resident Association more than once. Now, it wasn't always finalized. The scope of work went through some changes over the weeks and the months that we've been working on this. As NDG found things, and they had to do filings with the Department of Buildings, and they found that the Department of Buildings would come back and say, I'm sorry, but you're required to do this, and you're required to do that. And so the scope of work actually was a living document that went through changes over the last few months. So even though it's been said that we only sent the scope of work to them 3 days ago, that was just the most recent revision. We have sent the scope of work to the board before that. And as you know, any of you who have been coming to the meetings that we've been having here for the past 6, 7, 8 months, we have discussed the scope of work a lot. And we have listened to your comments and your complaints and things that you said were missing. And we've tried to incorporate them where feasible, in other places not feasible. I did review the main items with you a few moments ago, but you know, at some point, we have to be able to move forward. This is, you know, time is money, actually. So I just wanted to mention that.
Can I have a question, please?
Hold on a second. I'm going to go like this in terms of questions. So, yes, sir.
This one is for CPC. It's a question. I'm sorry. You said it's 3.5, right, for the interest rate?
Just making an example of it.
Well, that's very important.
Well, there's a blended rate. I can't give that off the top of my head. City lends you money at 1% for permanent loan, and your rate, let's say today, is like 5.25.
Well, right now it's 4 or 6. Depends on your credit.
It's a commercial loan. It's not the same as getting a house loan. Okay.
Oh, it's a commercial loan that we will be
That the building takes. So it's say 5.5 and 1. So blended out, it comes out into 3. So that's an example.
All right. I'm going to find out.
Bill, report it when you check.
A commercial loan, the city lends us at a low interest.
Judy, just a moment. Let me just go from left to right.
Levante la mano para que lo...
I'd like for everyone in here to understand
Levante la
this.
mano y cuando lo llame.
We don't go through this, okay? And we don't become a co-op. The owners of the building are going to have to turn everything over to HPD. The owners of the building are going to have to turn the building over to HPD. By law, Columbia, Mount Sinai, any kind of investment group can come in and buy this building. And when they do, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen because I was involved in this kind of a situation before in the Bronx. Okay? They will come in and they will have a TPT, third-party transfer program. And their program would be like this. Everybody move out right now. I am going to renovate this building. Okay? And the cost of my renovation for this building is going to cost a hell of a lot more than what we're faced with right now. So when they finish and they say, okay, you can move back in, your rent is going to be in excess of $3,000 a month for a studio. So now you think about this. Let's do this. We've been doing this for years. For years. I'm going back to in the 80s, coming forward. And we got to this point right now. The money they're asking for, as far as the maintenance is concerned, it's a lot of money to a lot of people. But there are programs that can help you with that. Okay? But the point is this. This is a gold mine. You have an opportunity right now to have a piece of a gold mine. Real estate, I don't care if you have an oil field, gold mine, or whatever it is. Real estate. This is real estate that you can own. And you're here. You're home. You've been here a long time, fighting a long time. Let's get this done. If we lose this opportunity, we won't be here. none of us will be here unless we can afford excess of $3,000 a month for a student.
Excuse me, can we ask a question about the first loan that we take out?
We'll get your next question.
I just wanted to echo what the gentleman just said. I'm with HPD, and basically HPD's goal is to keep family in their homes, right? So HPD is giving you as tenants the opportunity to purchase your apartment, which you can own for the rest of your life, and pass it on to your families. We understand that right now you may not understand everything that's associated with the loan and the interest and so on and so forth, and of course, we'll provide you with details on that, and that you know exactly what your rent based on the apartment size is going to be. What I'm going to say is that real estate has gotten to be so expensive in New York City that HPD is working closely with families in order to maintain home ownership. So if you have the opportunity, people would covet to have the opportunity of what you have. So I want you to really think about it, band together as a group, talk about it, come together, because if it doesn't convert to a co-op, it will remain a rental, and as you have explained, right, when it's a rental, then you probably will never have the opportunity to buy your apartment again. And then if a new owner comes in, keep in mind that rents can go up at any point in time. So you have the chance, think about it, band together. We're here to answer any questions. You may not have all your questions today, but we're going to be here to answer your questions as we continue to move forward in this process.
Keep in mind that you will get to purchase your insider unit for $2,500. You will get to own your unit if you become a co-op for $2,500. You don't get that anywhere else.
Can I ask a question? The question I want to ask is, the loan's taken out, the first loan's taken out for 640 and 644, is that correct? How much of that money was spent on 640? Since if we co-signed 640 and 644 loans, how much was spent on us and how much was spent with them? And how much is left?
There's that construction loan, which was both 640 and 644. There's a little bit left. There's not a lot left.
How much was it? The total amount?
It was about $20 million.
20 million.
And what is it? $4 million?
$4 million.
About $4 million left.
Since we all co-signed for that, shouldn't we get like?
Are we going to pay for it?
We're going to break down of that so we can do the math on it, so we can make sure the numbers is correct.
No, the way it is that whatever funds of that money was spent on 640, which wasn't very much, okay, is being rolled into this new loan. And basically 644, yeah, most of the money was spent at 644, but wait a second, but a lot of it was spent here because during the entire process, we also had to pay construction interest for both buildings. We had to pay water and sewer bills for both buildings. That came from the loan.
I know the whole process of
We had to, you asked me to explain it.
So I can see if the numbers.
Excuse me, you asked me to explain, I'm going to explain it. We had to pay insurance for the building, that came from the loan, because the rents in the building are not enough to cover those things. So during the development process, we rely on loan money to be able to cover that in the construction loan. So the money that is left over,
how much is that?
It was about $4 million. Is it correct to say it's being rolled into the new loan package? It's being rolled into the new financial package. Now, HPD is ready to put more money into 640. It's going to be a totally separate, the projects have been separated. And I believe that the repair work, the renovations, is going to be a little more than $20 million in this building, excuse me.
I hear everything you saying.
$20 million.
If I co-sign for something, can I see the receipts? If I'm co-signing for this thing within the collective, shouldn't we all see the receipts for something that we co-signing instead of somebody just speaking up, telling us this? We should see it in black and white. This one, we know it's a cost for everything. And we want to see the cost and the price of every single dollar. Some of us is nice when it comes to the math.
I think
it's real nice.
I think the attorney, if we do hire an attorney, he should see that.
Yeah, we need an attorney for the math.
He should see all of that.
I want to see the numbers. I'll break that down. I see
Okay, the person over here is asking, you know, will you get basically a breakdown of the numbers, correct?
Yeah, if you got money like that, you're buying wholesale.
The answer is yes, yes, you will. You know exactly what's being done. But the main point I'm making here is that the loans have been separated. 644 is a separate project. The money that was spent here is being rolled into the new financing. The money that's left over is being rolled into the new financing, and it's not enough. HPD is going to put more money in at 1%, which is really good interest, but it's still not enough, and that's why we have to have a private bank, which is CPC, Community Preservation Corporation. And what is your loan again? The CPC loan is about 8 million? 10. And the CPC loan is about 10 million. And that's it. So the blended rate, as somebody was explaining, between the 1% and the 5.5%, it gets to be about a blended rate of 3.5%. So, and the rents that are being projected in terms of the rent restructuring is based on making sure that that new rent roll will cover, first, the operating costs of the building, the fuel, the heat, to pay the maintenance staff. And it's a unionized maintenance staff, so it's kind of expensive, but that's what it has to be. For insurance, to make sure that if there's a fire, that you're protected. The owner is protected. It would be great if you're the owner. Whoever the owner is has to be protected in insurance. We'll pay the water and the sewer bills. We'll do repairs. All that stuff is the operating. And then you have, of course, reserves, which is part of the operating, has to be set aside. And then, of course, you have your mortgage payments. And all of that, these rents are calculated, they will cover all of that. That budget, yes, we will share with you.
Should we get that monthly? Monthly as everything?
Well, that's a projection that's done actually for the first year of when we think that the building will convert to a co-op. We will share that with you.
We notice how you keep saying what we think or my prediction. Your prediction and you thinking is not giving specifics. I like to deal with specifics. If you're dealing with that, you can say whenever, and then we get signed into a contract with specifics. This is how
we'll give you the specifics.
That's what I keep saying. It's real important to have
I'm saying you want specifics. Yes, we will. Yes, we will give you the specifics. All broken down.
During the construction process, I don't know if you know this, and maybe you're a good person to lead this committee, you should have a construction committee made up of members of the board and anybody else who's going to stay on top of the process, who's going to be present at walkthroughs. We couldn't possibly communicate with everybody in the building about what's going on.
We want to know, have nice things coming up.
Would you be on the construction committee?
Whatever committee, if we could do anything
It's your project, it's your building. It's full disclosure. I don't know your name.
My name's Paul.
Paul, it's your process, and in the interest of disclosure, we always try to have you form a construction committee that's present and is involved in that conversation.
So that's a lot of money that we're dealing with, and for that to be randomly not knowing, we can save.
I agree with you.
We can save a lot, and everybody be happy.
You have ideas, you should definitely be on the construction committee, and think about anybody else who could join that, okay? You'll be talking to the contractors, the architects, and us, and the city, so you will have full information, okay?
You keep hearing what we need to do at this amount of time.
Okay, you got the solution. I'm not hearing what are our fears, what's our money concern, what's we need. We have to be, by this time, what you need us to get for you guys to get this started. But nobody's asked me, what am I afraid of losing? How much am I going to pay? Why am I going to pay 3 times what I'm paying now? Because I'm going to do that. I buy a house and I'm going to see people get it. I'll pay $1,900 and I could do that across the river and I don't have to do nothing. For renting an apartment, we didn't choose to leave. We've been there. Most of us. This neighborhood was started my neighborhood. This was crappy. I didn't leave. I like my house. And now you want us to leave and upgrade it, which is all right. But you know what? What's the guarantee? What's my fear? What? And if a year from now I can't pay that rent, now I leave. But you know what? My grandmother's been here since 44 and I've been here for 20 years. I don't want to. I'm going to court now and owners can't even help me. I was legally unpaid. I'm wasting time for 2 years. But I got to accommodate what you need from us. Where's my fear? Where's my protection?
They were dealing with people who have shoddy work done in the past that messed up and did this thing, so I'm supposed to trust you? I'm sorry. I apologize about.
So is your, I'm sorry, maybe they understand, I don't understand. Is your fear that after all of this and after the rents that we just quoted you, that you would still, it would ultimately still become too expensive? Is that the fear?
I'm paying under $1,000. And my house is 3 bedrooms. Now I'm gonna pay $1,900 and I'm gonna go, oh, that's great. Why do I want to get more money in my pocket? That means my kids eat less. There's gonna be less food in my fridge. This is what we've been paying. Now all of a sudden you're gonna double our rent. I don't see that as.
$10 on your rent for a refrigerator.
I think the problem is, I think the problem is you're dealing with a building that has dangerous conditions in it, where it needs repairs. There are violations, the violations are piling up. You see the scaffolding, there's local law 11 work that's extremely expensive. If you chose to stay in this situation, you would very soon lose everything. Everything. So repairs have to
buying everything, and now you want to hold us.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm going to answer your question. Your question is mostly about affordability. Affordability. You're worried that you won't be able to afford the restructured rent. Okay. Now, the first thing is, if you're in a 3-bedroom, which is about 5.5, it's not 1,900, it's 1,400, 1,421. What's the difference? Now, this is an affordable housing program. And HPD is committed to making sure that these rents are affordable. The basic concept here is that nobody should have to pay more than 30% of their income for rent. That's a national standard on affordability.
You said 30?
Now, 30%. Right. Now, anybody who ends up with a rent hardship because of the rent restructuring, meaning that you will have to pay more than 30% of your household income for rent, as a rent hardship, will be offered Section 8. Section 8 subsidy. Now what happened next door is that the next door is 94 units, and there were about 94, excuse me, about 80, because there were 14 vacant apartments there, about 80 existing residents. About 40 of them applied for Section 8, and about 30 of them got Section 8 and continue to have Section 8 today. 3 years later, after their rents were restructured, they got their Section 8. If there's one thing that you have as a staff is dedicated to, is helping anybody who needs help with a Section 8 application. And we really put a lot of emphasis on this because we don't want to see anybody ending up with a rent hardship. If anybody wants to talk to the board next door about the promise that we kept to work with everybody who needs Section 8. You're welcome to do so. You know who the board is next door. But there was nobody evicted from 644 because they could not pay the restructured rent. This is an affordable housing program, and we intend to keep it that way. Now, if you are not eligible for Section 8 because your income is too high, then of course you won't get it. But that implies that your income is high enough so that the restructured rent is less than 30% of your income, and therefore it is affordable to you. So yes, it will be different than what you have been used to paying. Some of this building has wildly different rents. You have some very low, and you have some that are almost as high as the restructured rents that were stated recently. Difference a lot.
What's the point?
These rents are very similar to the rents that were established in 644. They're not made up.
Let me ask you a question.
Hold on just a second. I know. Several people have been waiting. Could you all raise your hands as to who wants to answer the question? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start here and go around.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what exactly is the next step, tenant by tenant? Because I understand what people's questions about rent and maintenance and doubling and all of that, but at the end of the day, we want to buy our apartment. We want to go co-op, right? So what is the actual next step, tenant by tenant? What do we need to do next? Get out.
So we have to have the temporary relocation agreements from all the residents. As I said, we have 57 people who have signed. We have about another 14 tenants who have contacted us and have said that they have agreed to the apartment that we have offered, sometimes with conditions, which we believe we will be able to add to the list, and we think we're going to have 70. Well, that means we have another 29 people who are not cooperating.
There's 29 people that we need to
There's 29 people that are not cooperating.
You need 100%.
And you need 100%. We need 100%. Here's why. If we're going to renovate a line of apartments from the ground floor to the 12th floor, you can't have somebody sitting in the middle of it because we have to replace the waste stacks. We have to do the electricity. It can't be done. We have to have 100% clearing those lines as we move along. And so, if we don't get those other 29 people to agree, we are not going to do this renovation, and you have is going to step out.
Is there a deadline?
That's the next step.
Layout changes. Everybody heard that? Yeah. Do you want to mention about the layout changes and then this design? Layout changes.
Sorry, this is HPD's meeting, so I have to defer to them.
Yeah, another point to your question is what needs to be done before construction closing. So Grant mentioned about the relocation agreement, and the second thing HPD need is the layout plans, like your floor plans signed. So we need all of tenants to sign on their floor plan. And you can will bring floor plan to every one of you and have you guys sign and return it to us.
What word did you say?
Floor plan.
Floor plan. So basically the layout of your apartment.
Floor plan of your
apartment. Yeah, so you're signing off on it.
The B line has been chosen because of its existing layout. It's the most convenient line to make the apartments handicapped accessible, and therefore there will be layout changes to the apartments in the B line. So we have to work with each tenant in the B line to figure out if you want to stay in the new floor plan or if you want to be moved to somewhere else. And by the way, the other line is the G. Now, when I say G, I'm talking about those G apartments where they've been broken up and you have G, G1, and G2. So those small G apartments are also going to have some layout changes. Not as significant as the B line, but nevertheless, we will go over that with all of the existing residents in the G line about that new floor plan.
Not for handicap, not for
The G line is not for handicap accessible.
but for what? It's going to be redone.
Redone, mostly the bathrooms. Vince, are you familiar with this, about the G line for bathrooms?
G1 and G2 are bathroom back to back.
So the issue with one of the G-line apartments was there's a room that is too small to be legal. So
a room that is too small.
Yeah, it's not.
The room size is just.
So what has to happen is the room has to be made bigger. What has to happen is, I believe it's G1.
It is G1. G1.
I think what happens is the room has to be made bigger and the location of the bathroom is changing.
I have a question.
Yeah, well, wait a minute.
All right.
Moving around.
So my question is very, like back to the fundamentals actually. And the question that I'm hearing is that a lot of people have apprehensions about future costs, right? So is it possible to revisit the calculus that you guys use to ascertain the rents that will be implemented moving forward? Or are these rents like solid as a rock and they can't move? So what I'm saying is, of course, everything, the loan, the calculus, the reconstruction, all of these things are factored in there. Is there a way that you could rethink this such that it becomes a little more affordable for the people who are asking about this?
Oh, what a
We, the owner of this building, whether it's you as a cooperative, or whether it's some other owner who comes in if you don't go cooperative, has to be able to cover the costs. So we know what it costs to run this building in terms of operating. And we know what it costs to do the renovation in terms of the scope of work that we have outlined. We have to be able to collect enough rent each month to cover those costs. So in a way, your question is there any flexibility? Not really. Not really. We need to get that total coming in, or else this building will fail.
Okay, next question.
No, we pay the $2,500, and we also pay maintenance plus site rent. Just the maintenance. So what, does that maintenance that we pay, say for instance, $1,500 or whatever, does that include the payment of the loan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what, that was clear to you before.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take it.
When Brett said earlier that the rents in this building have been going up and down. Did you say up and down?
No, I
with the rent?
said there are different levels.
Different levels of rent?
Some people have low rent, some people have high rent.
He said some people have low rent and some people have high rent. That's true. But in the last 15 years, it is also true. Everybody in this room, with a few lucky exceptions, is the middle class that is being destroyed. Truth is, no matter how much money you've got, for the most part, it has barely been enough very recently. So the surprise element, the idea like if you let the mechanic look under your hood and you don't know about the car, when he comes up with his price, he first has an estimate, and then you can go to another mechanic. The problem we have is that you say you can't do the whole thing without everybody. But we are not getting the assurance we need that it won't become an open-ended golden goose where HPD can still say, hey, it costs a lot more to get that boiler than we thought it would. Just go raise their maintenance costs again. Or, I mean, I'm being bizarre and I'm having trouble getting examples because I'm tired and I'm sure everybody else is. But the reason that man spoke of...
The Attorney General has to sign off on this and Petition A.
Let me answer your question.
We know.
Oh, we know.
I think we're going to because I don't have the language even, but when that gentleman said, can you give us a breakdown, that is the kind of thing that helps. Then we go home and study it and know what we're doing.
Well, I think the gist of Judy's question just now was, how do we know that the costs aren't going to go up? Well, we are going to have a contract with the contractor, MDG, for a certain amount of money. And they are going to be obligated, contracted, to perform this scope of work, to put in the new boiler, to fix all of the brickwork on the outside, to do all the electrical wiring, to replace all of the bathrooms completely, to replace all of the kitchen completely, to do the floors, do all the lamination, fix all the walls, all of that stuff. They are going to do it for the price that they give us. They've already given us the price, and so the numbers that we have been telling you tonight are based on the price that they are going to be contracted to do. The thing that could result in higher costs is not the cost of putting in a boiler or something like that. It is delay. Time is money. If the renovation does not take place expeditiously, there are many costs that continue to have to be paid during the construction period. That's where the problem is. And that is one of the reasons why we will not do this unless we know that every single tenant is willing and committed and is signed that they will move to a relocation apartment on time, quickly, and move back when the apartment's up. That is the key to keeping the costs as we have projected.
Can I ask a question more about if this doesn't happen, if you don't have everyone on board? Can you repeat what you said before, because I don't think everyone heard you? In case we are not on board and you have an issue, can you repeat what you said, what Shuha was going to do and what's going to be our fate? Because you said it before.
Right. We can't emphasize this point enough. We can't continue to own this building if we can't do a renovation. We won't. And we can't do the renovation unless we know that everybody is committed to moving and is signed. We will not risk that. And so it's really important. The major next step is those 29 people have got to step up and do the right thing and sign those relocation agreements.
The ones that they can't work on construction. What are the ones that they cannot do construction? And in November, December, January, like that.
If we close this loan, as we are aiming to do by the end of June, we are going to start construction in the summer. We're going to start in July. It's right around the corner.
Brent, can I ask a question?
Hold on, Theo, hold on. Go ahead. And then you, Theo. One more question here.
My question is about renovation and construction.
So people can see you. Come on.
I was in the next building, and I wasn't impressed.
Okay.
I was not impressed. The unit that we saw, me and my grandmother, was an 8B. Renovation was shitty.
Okay.
So are we using the same person that they did over there?
No.
Okay.
Okay, the man said that he was not impressed with the 644 renovation. Two things here. One is that we have a different contractor. The contractor who did 644 was Delwood Construction. They are not our contractor. We purposely picked MDG because they have an excellent track record of doing quality work and doing it quickly, which is a key for us. We want to do this quickly. They put enough guys on the job to get it done, and the supervision of their workers is excellent. And so we expect much better quality of work from this contractor. Secondly, is that the scope of work in 640 was developed 12 years ago. I'm sorry, 644 was developed 12 years ago, and they did not get a lot of the work that we are proposing here. For instance, they did not get new electrical wiring in the walls of their apartments, and they didn't get a lot of new electrical outlets. But the new electrical code forces us to do that here. So not only are you going to get new electrical wiring, which they did not get, but you're also going to get completely new laminated sheetrock walls with smooth surfaces everywhere, which many of the apartments next door did not get because we didn't have to do the electric, so we didn't have to break the walls down. So what they got is what's called skim coat on a lot of their walls, and it doesn't look as nice as what you are going to get here.
Can I now talk? Thank you. Right. I mean, I'm going to try to remain calm and composing my comment. Thank you. Certain people here do not like your last comment. I'm just commenting on your last comment about what they got next door. I'm tired of hearing what we have compared to other people. We are 640. We want what we want for ourselves without having to be victim shamed. Victim shame is, oh, they're paying $3,000 over there. You should be happy that you're only paying half of that.
Now, that's answering the man's question.
Yeah, I understand. But that's the comment I hear from your lot. But one thing I want to say is I proposed many times that we do a reset meeting together where I take the time to educate my fellow tenant like I did outside where I put the management report for the last 12 years. We are still missing a lot of management report that we didn't receive from you every month. I have placed on the wall the scope of work you sent me 2 days ago for all the tenants to see. I also put on the wall 644 construction, the construction consultant we paid to look at what happened at 644, so we don't forget. But every meeting where I said, let's sit down and look at the scope of work together has been refused. You are refused to do that, and you're moving ahead without regard to whatever I as a tenant have to say, or what I collected from my other tenants fellow. So the question is, for me as a tenant,
Yeah, but you're not the only tenant there.
I understand I'm not the only tenant, but I have a tenant, so I have the right.
You keep saying the same same thing over
and over as a broken record.
The point is,
We need a lawyer, that's what the point
Yeah,
is.
but if moving forward with a half-broken car, the right way to move forward, or should we take the time to look at the bill of sale? The bill of sale has been posted on the wall, and I don't agree with the bill of
we're
sale.
never gonna go over here, keep going back to what happened in 640.
Yes, I do want the liberty.
It's ridiculous, we go through this every time.
But, excuse me. Yeah, but I said that. So, my question is, what do you take to the
Give me a mic, give me a mic, give me a mic.
Well, you know, yeah, I will do, yeah. We're going to try to wrap this up because it's getting late. But I just want to say that the issues that Theo is raising, it's okay. I mean, we talked about the scope of work so many times, I don't know how you can say that we haven't, but we are, Theo, excuse me, we are committed to coming back here in June, and we will go over this again with you thoroughly, with more detail.
Do we have the right to change and propose changes? The question is about bringing change to the scope of work that you are giving us, like for example the shed for apartment 1E. Could we have...
Maybe.
No, maybe. That's the problem.
No, it depends on what you're talking about. So it depends on what the change is. That's why I'm saying maybe. Okay? If there's, it's a work in progress to a certain degree. So what But the scope of work was presented to HPD's Builds Department, okay? And they reviewed it, and they have certain requirements. There are limits to what can be changed and what can't, so the conversation is ongoing. We won't be able to answer your questions in detail tonight.
So we are not included.
So I think a lot of people in this room want to move beyond this issue. So let's please,
answer my question.
It depends. It depends on what you're suggesting. I'm not going to say when.
Will the future board of this building be included in the discussion of those future change?
I think I talked about the construction.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm serious. Hello? Like,
I just want to say something.
names that are missing? We want to buy our apartments.
I just want to say something to everybody. I think most of you know who I am. You know I've been living in this building. I'm second generation. So I got over 40 years in this building. The bottom line is, you know I've walked up and down these hallways to get people out of this building smoking crack from years. Y'all all know that. Right? Y'all really know that. If y'all don't know it, you better know it. I've done it. I put my own personal life on the line to help people on this building. People on this block up the hill don't come down this block and sell drugs in this building because of me. That's real talk. I say all that to say, what I hear is that some people want something for nothing.
Bullshit. We don't.
Listen, I'm talking. Fall back with that. I'm talking.
Okay.
Relax yourself. All right? I'm saying all that to say that, listen, I get it. But if you want something, you got to pay for it too. There's nobody out here driving a new car with old car money. You're not doing that. I'm saying, I understand. I'm not saying you don't have valid points. I'm not saying that, Theo. Just listen to me.
I'm listening, but you...
But then listen! I'm just trying to say, if we're going to work together for the betterment of ourselves, we are the building. There has to be a give and take. You have valid points. But when you speak loud, we don't hear you.
Translate.
Just listen. Shut up. Damn, B, shut up. If we're gonna work together, because I'm telling you, what we put in the building is ourselves, right? And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, then we get a product of environment that we don't want, right? A lot of people in here are paying little and want a lot. A lot of people in here are paying a little and want a lot.
That's what you should get. Pay a little to get a lot. That's a
No,
good deal.
don't play yourself. 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 Listen, I pay the cost to be the boss. I really do. And I may have a lot to lose more than you. Really. But I'm just trying to say, when you put your money into it, you really take a hold of what you want. So listen, let's work together. Brent, you know, we talk.
1 minute.
Yeah. Listen, let's come to a common goal, a common denominator, man. It's really, all this arguing is really, if you want more, then pay more. I'm not trying to say not be homeless, but you can't ask somebody to put so much into something and you put so little in.
But can I ask the question, Billy?
Yeah, you can.
Tell me how much money they're giving us. Give me the number.
We can work on that. We can work on that.
Zero. They're not giving us any money. The money they're lending it to us. They're lending it to us at 1% of the market. So they're even making money on that. So they're not giving us anything.
Just a quick thing before we wrap this up, because we have to wrap it up. Excuse me, please. Just, I hope I'm making concluding remarks here. Now, we are committed, and I'm speaking for UHAB now, and NDG is willing to convene a meeting, either a large meeting or a small meeting, to review in more detail the scope of work. And we will also review the actual numbers, which this man somewhere, it was his main point, that let's know more about the actual numbers. We can do that. And we will also send around sometime in the next couple of weeks an information package. We've been working on, we took notes on all of the questions and comments that you've had about the scope of work, about relocation, about rents and affordability. And it's going to be like, frequently asked questions. And we're going to send that around along with other material. There will also be something that you have has compiled about Section 8, how the Section 8 program works, and the eligibility requirements. We'll put this all in package sent around to you. So we do intend to try to, share with you some of the basic information in writing. Real quick, Theo has definitely clashed heads with UHAB, me in particular. Nothing personal. And I think, I congratulate him on helping to convene such a large representation of the residents in the building. I'm really hoping that we can move on from here in maybe a more of a spirit of collaboration and to the goal of finally, after all these years, moving this building towards an affordable, cooperative, where you actually own this building and you don't have to worry about some landlord coming in here and messing with you. That's been the goal for so many years. We are committed to getting there, but we have certain steps that we have to take and certain conditions that you have to meet as well.
Can I just say something?
One more question.
I do real estate for a living, and I help a lot of HFC co-ops sell their co-ops after their kids or their grandmothers die. And by you having your own co-op, in 20 years, 30 years, you'll be able to sell it. I mean, we don't want to sell it. Who wants to sell? But in 20 years, whoever's here, or their kids, or their grandkids, going to be able to sell it. And I can tell you this, a co-op in this building in 10 years is going to be at least $7 to $1 million. So it's not about selling. I'm just saying the value of what the real estate is. I'm not saying that it's a market price. No, I understand there's a limit. Just saying what's the market value, what's the market value. What I'm saying is, owning your own co-op. We have to work on what are the costs and all that stuff, but owning your own co-op, you can pass on for your kids. That's all I'm saying.
Just to clarify that, all of the HDFCs which are being converted over the last few years and going forward will have resale limitations on them because it is affordable housing and it is meant to stay affordable housing. So there will be resale restrictions on sales.
You just brought up a good point and I have a question about it that I want to hear. The first thing is I'm an old tenant for third generation. I have a washing machine and a dryer in my apartment. I do have that. And I didn't see the scope of work and I see the new leases. What will happen to all my equipment in the apartment? Will I be allowed to keep my washing machine and all my stuff? Because that we never thought. The second thing we never thought is what happened to preference on people who have family in big buildings. We have families that have grown up in the program and now they're 18 years old and there is vacant apartment. What will they need to have to get priority? And the third thing is
all right, that's a good question. The question about the vacant apartments is a good question. Now it is you have practice, and we did this next door, that after the renovation is complete, not before, but after, we will identify families who are substantially overcrowded. And we will try to alleviate that overcrowdedness by moving them to a larger apartment in the building. In some cases, it may mean a split. But that's something that we will examine. And we've already collected the data that will be based on. So now the priority will be for people who, when they apply for Section 8, if they are overcrowded, Section 8 will require that they have a larger apartment, because Section 8 will not subsidize an overcrowded household. So that will take priority. We will get there after the renovation. We don't do this before.
And the machine question?
So we're actually going to wrap this up, all right? But if you guys have questions and you want to come up here and talk to us individually, please do so, okay? So we thank you guys for your attention, your time, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Hello? Give me